Welcome everyone. In this video we will see how we can solve quadratic equations. Now what is a quadratic equation? Let me tell you. The general form is a squared, ax squared plus bx plus c equaling 0. X here is the variable, a, b and c are just numbers. So there is a way of solving this for any case, but before doing that, let's see a special example. For example, let's consider the equation 2x squared minus 8x plus 6 equaling 0. And also I just realized in this definition, this doesn't really define a quadratic equation if we don't say that a is not equal to 0. Because if a is equal to 0, you just have a linear which is easier to solve. So let's keep in mind that a is not equal to 0 for this to be a quadratic equation. Now, how can we solve this example? Well, we can think of it as a factor. So we will have, maybe I say, well, 2x and x would give, when they are multiplied, 2x squared. And for 6, 3 and 2 come to my mind, so I could say 3, 2. Then is it maybe like 2x plus 2, x plus 3? Well, you would realize that that is not the case because we have a minus here. So in fact, I want to choose these 2 and 3's to be negative. If they are negative now, you can notice that we will have, and the way we do the multiplication is like this. So negative 6, negative 2, they give you negative 8x. So it should work. And while writing the factors, we write them looking horizontally. So the factors will be 2x minus 2, x minus 3 equaling 0. And always you can check that you factored it out correctly by simply multiplying, which is correct in this case. If you do it, you will see that. And this means that first we want to equalize this part to be 0. So 2x minus 2 is equal to 0, 2x is equal to 2, x is equal to 1. That's one solution. The other solution comes from the other factor. X minus 3 is equal to 0, so x is equal to 3. Hence, the two solutions for our given quadratic equation is x is equal to 1 or x is equal to 3. Cool, this is all good. But this was a special case because we were able to factor this. When we looked at this, we realized that using integers, it was quite easy to factor. But in some cases, even though perhaps there is a factoration, we might not be able to see it immediately, and perhaps the factorization might require numbers that have square roots, that have fractions, and it is really hard to guess those factors by simply looking at it. So we have a general way of solving any quadratic equation. Let me erase this example and consider the general formula. Now the general formula is this, and the general solution is for x1 and x2, because as you know, a quadratic equation can have up to 2 solutions. It will have 2 solutions, but there might be repeated roots, which we can discuss in this video. So the solution is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. This is called the quadratic formula, and I have a video where I prove this formula. You can access that video from the cards right now and also from the descriptions part. Since I already proved this in a previous video, we will just take it for granted basically. In this video, we will assume it to be correct if you haven't watched the proof or if you don't know the proof. We will just make use of it. Here you should not worry that we have a in the denominator. What if it is equal to 0? Well, it is not equal to 0 for this equation to be a quadratic equation. And you can notice when the two solutions might be equal to one another. We have a plus or minus here. If the inside of the square is 0, then we have a repeated root, which we call a double root. And the inside might be negative. In that case, we have the square root of a negative number, which gives you a result that is not real, but rather a complex result, an imaginary result. which is all fine. Depending on the reason that you're solving the quadratic equation, you might neglect or you might look for imaginary solutions as well, just to keep in mind. So let's just use this formula for some random quadratic equation. Let's say we have 11x squared minus 4x plus 7 is equal to 0. The first thing that we want to do is we want to look at this and try to factor out, and you will see that, 11 is prime, so 11x, x, 7 is prime, so 7 and 1. Well, it simply doesn't work. Oh wait, it doesn't work though. Did I literally give an example that works? I made this up. Let's see if I do it. Oh no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah. Because look at this. If we have it like that, we get 18x. And if we make these both negatives, we get negative 18x. But if this were to be a negative in the original equation, then I guess we could say this, and then it would work, but it simply isn't. Okay, it's good that I gave this example, but I nearly missed the point. So, interesting. But all good. So what we saw is we can't factor this by just looking at it. So let's just use the quadratic formula for finding the solutions. We will have negative b, which is the negative of the coefficient of x. The coefficient here is negative 4. So we write 4 plus or minus b squared. So negative 4 squared, which is 16, minus 4 times AC, so A is 11, the coefficient of x squared, and C is the constant, which is 7 for our example, divided by 2 times A, which is 22. And let's just calculate the inside of the square root. We will have, let's find this factor. So it is 44 times 7, which will give us 8, 2, 28, 308, I hope. If I did not make a calculation mistake. No, I'm kidding. It is 308. Then we will subtract it from 16. So we have 2. Okay. Which means we have this as the result. And as you can see, the inside of the square root is negative. So we have an imaginary solution, which we can find by doing this. So we will say, well, we can simplify maybe 2 over 11 plus or minus I, then square root of 392 over 22. Maybe I can factor out some things from 292, let's see. But we don't need to, I could go into it and try to see whether or not it factors out. But we don't need to. If you are asked this on an exam, then I would suggest that you simplify as much as possible. But if you're just looking for the answer, well, there you go. This is the answer. So what are the takeaways? Number 1, if you have a quadratic equation, my first suggestion to you is to look at it and try to see if you can factor it. If you cannot factor it, then there's always the quadratic formula that you can use that gives the two solutions all the time. Maybe there are not real solutions. That simply means that the inside of the square root is negative, which is completely fine. It is very likely that you would be asked to find the imaginary solutions as well. Anyways, this is it for this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, please add them in the comment section. I hope to see you in another video. Until then, take care.